And welcome everybody to the world's greatest podcast. My name is Craig Rente, and I am officially the world's greatest podcast host. So thank you for that. This is a podcast where we talk about technology in general, licensing, contracts, complexity, customer freedom, choice, all of that fun stuff. And we always have some really interesting guests on. And today I am pleased to say that Lee McArthur is joining us. Lee, we normally don't do much prep, but you and I were just talking for 2 minutes, and I was going to spend all this time talking about you and Natrinsic. And then you reminded me that you actually have been acquired by CDS. So I would love to get the story on what you're doing at CDS now. And then I've got a whole bunch of follow-up questions for you. So tell the audience a little bit about yourself, please.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Craig. It's nice to be here. Yeah, so officially, I'm helping run strategy and business development for CDS out of Eatontown, New Jersey, having been acquired a little over a year ago by CDS. And it's been an amazing journey, I'd say, over the last year plus. The marriage of a much smaller organization in Natrinsic with a relatively much larger organization in CDS, going from a small, primarily North American focused niche data warehousing, database appliances services organization, to becoming a part of an organization that's got offices in APAC and EMEA and Canada and the rest. And also learning a little bit more about how to go to business with larger OEMs like the like the IBMs of the world and Hitachi, HP, and Dell. So it's been an interesting journey, but what I'm really excited about is the growing message around third-party support. It's really sort of I've heard it described as trendy the other day. This is sort of the
Yes.
new cool thing. It's gone from something that was perceived potentially as risky to something that I think is getting closer to the realm of best practice.
That's awesome. But listen, before we talk about third-party support, I was looking at your LinkedIn profile and I noticed that you have a drone startup. What is that? That's stealth mode now for 6 years. You can't be in stealth mode anymore.
It's funny if you look at how many people work at stealth mode as the LinkedIn company.
Yes.
There's a lot of people at the stealth mode company. I've relocated to eastern part of Canada called Prince Edward Island, which is all agriculture here, and so I've long wanted to sort of combine technology with working with my hands, and so this is potato country where I live in Canada. And so working towards some technology to help growers here in the province where I live, leveraging drone technology. And so I went out and got my advanced drone pilot certification many moons ago, and I'm figuring it out one step at a time. But I'll come back to you when when we leave stealth mode. How about that?
That's awesome. I am a proud drone owner myself. I love to fly it around, but I can't fly my drone around here anymore because we are also in New Jersey and we are very close to Trump National Golf
That's
Course.
right.
And
That's right.
Marine One is always overhead, and there are much bigger drones flying over my house these days with, I think, a lot of equipment that probably is not on my little DJI drone.
Fair
So,
enough.
so that,
Listen, come visit me in PEI. Bring your drone, and you can fly it everywhere here.
well, I would imagine where you are is probably a little different than New Jersey. We're a little more concentrated here with
Yeah,
people.
it's the exact opposite here.
Ex- Exactly. But it is 1,000 degrees here today, so I don't know how you guys are doing.
Yeah, no, it's much cooler here. Still too warm for the average Canadian, but I'll take it.
Awesome, awesome. So when we think about, because I sort of did the opposite of what you did. I went from a really big company, Oracle, and to a
Hmm.
really small company, and the culture shock and everything is like for me was just different. Like I started the company here, so there was no one to call. Like, hey, I need a business card, or I need to make an appointment, or I need to sort of meet someone. It's sort of all on you. What's life like at a larger company versus sort of something that you started or managed, or was? Uh, Hopefully, you have a lot more support, and I would imagine your marketing department and your outreach to clients makes it a little bit easier. with CDS on your business card versus Natrinsic on your business card.
It does, yeah. It's been at every step you can imagine. It's just life is easier. A company that's been at the third party support game for 30 years is just much more polished from a logistics perspective, from a service delivery perspective. But really, what sets CDS apart is their relationship with the OEMs. And where that has been extraordinarily helpful for Natrinsic is around awareness, which has been our Achilles heel. We're a small organization focusing on niche appliances, which is great if you're trying to capture properly formatted Google searches, with SEO and all the rest of it, and where customers are coming to us. But really, to grow the business, you really need sort of that tripling effect that you can get where you combine larger organizations with effective channel partners and all the rest of it. So, from an awareness perspective, CDS and their partner channel have really sort of changed the game for us in terms of acting as an accelerant, especially towards larger customers on average. So in the past, our average customer size, measured in appliances would say be, 6 Exadatas or a handful of
Mhm.
Exadatas and Exalogics, where now we're closing deals with telecommunications companies and banks who have, dozens, north of 50 appliances, which is a real shift for us. But it's one of those, it's a cliche to say, but it's a good problem to have, trying to figure that out earlier on in our business than we otherwise would have.
That's great. I mean, you and I have, worked together for years and sort of remember startup Natrinsic. So these types of conversations and the things that you're saying now are very different than maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago,
Absolutely.
when it really was even just trying to define the market. Like this product, forget the company,
Yeah.
but it's the product or the service that you're providing.
Yeah.
And we see that all the time. I didn't even know there was a service that would help me
Yeah.
fight Oracle or
Yeah.
do whatever, defend from that audit or what have you. So again, having sort of that broader reach. Why don't we, talk a little bit about sort of that niche going back down to sort of the core of where Natrinsic started with, which is third party support
Hmm.
for um, for appliances, for servers, for hardware.
Yep.
One of the things that I've seen is, and I think you mentioned this earlier, um, it's now mainstream. It's
Hmm.
cool, right?
Yeah.
And I don't care if that's software and you're moving to third-party software support provider, Java, hardware. Like,
Yeah.
I think the OEM vendors tend to charge more. It's like bringing your car to the dealer for service versus a great mechanic. So tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about that. How has the perception changed in the market for what you guys do?
Yeah. And it's really it's interesting. I'd say the reaction really depends on your specific relationship with the OEM in question. So we started our business primarily around a product from IBM called Netezza, which was another niche, high-end, high-performance sort of database appliance. And then we quickly transitioned into the Oracle Engineered Systems family of appliances, as well as Teradata. And each one of those OEMs sort of treats their customers in different ways with respect to the support that they receive as equipment ages. Some of the OEMs are like a band-aid and just rip it off and say, that's it for you, no more support to come. Where others like Oracle are much more nuanced, as you well know, in your team at Palisade, around the external messaging with respect to what a customer gets for support. But I think the constant there is there's this pressure, regardless of what OEM you're dealing with from a customer perspective. There's a lot of pressure from multiple sides, primarily around transforming the business, right? We've gone from in the data warehousing, database appliance space where it was all on premise. Everybody
Mhm.
had an on premise sort of footprint, spent a lot of money building that up, building internal tools and skills. And then it was almost overnight, it felt like, transition to this hyper adoption of cloud. And where I feel like we remain now is sort of in this forever hybrid space, which I think is probably the path forward for many of the businesses we're working with. but this pressure to transform remains. What are we going to do? The options are not necessarily clear for a customer. And especially if you talk about a data warehouse, which is sort of the lifeblood of the data of an organization, moving a data warehouse from on-prem to cloud really means moving all the ancillary applications that are feeding data into it. So it's really tough, but there's all this top-down pressure to transform, and at the same time, the classic challenges of reduced budgets, reduced headcount, a lot of pressure on trying to move capital expenditure from a legacy environment to the transformation effort is there. And in the past, customers could just always depend on that renewal to come. The support renewal will come from the OEM. And what customers are finding now is that it may or may not come. Some OEMs are not offering extensions of support at all, and others are making life really difficult for their customers. And this is the well in the Palisade wheelhouse in terms of helping customers when they run into that challenge. But what everybody is missing is just this ability to get both of their hands on the wheel again and have complete control over where they're headed. Because that
Uh,
challenge alone is difficult. And so I feel like businesses like Palisade and CDS, that's really what we're providing at the end of the day, is that the giving the control back to the client.
Take control, take back control. We've been saying that for 14 years now. That's sort of
Hmm.
been our motto. And ultimately, that's what we want. That's why clients come to us and come to you because they feel out of control. They feel that the vendors are sort of have way too much leverage or we're spending too much more. Very rarely do I have a client, and it does happen, that comes to me and says, I want to spend more with this vendor. I
Yeah.
really want to give Oracle more of my money. Can you
Yep.
like, they don't need my help for that. Oracle will totally help them,
Hmm.
give them more money. So usually it's how do I spend less, right? And
Yep.
and back before, before your acquisition, the way we were introduced is, customers would come and say, hey, one of the options is you can move to third-party support. You don't have to have Oracle support all
Yep.
this stuff, and Oracle to their it's great for them is not only are their systems engineered, they have engineered systems, but they have engineered contracts and licensing too. So they have
Hmm.
really built their whole ecosystem, including the documentation that customers sign, to lock in customers. So it
Yep.
takes a little bit of effort, and it's totally doable, but it takes a little bit of effort to break free
Yeah.
and achieve those savings and get a solution that's often better. And I think you hit it on the head. Vendors want their customers to move on to the newest thing, the latest and
Yep.
greatest appliance, or the latest and greatest cloud service. So, uh, whereas it used to be, we'll just support it forever because that's a cash cow. It just keeps coming in and coming in. Now it's like, no, we can even make more money if they go to this system over here, which is bigger and requires more licensing. So I think
Yeah.
that's a great spot for you guys to be in because everyone is looking. I have to, like you said, I have to transform, but I can't spend any more money. So how can I
Yeah.
free up some budget to use somewhere else as part of my digital transformation?
And it's interesting. It's kind of we find this it's a bit of a double-edged sword. So while third-party support is becoming definitely more trendy, it still is, in its infancy in terms of, customers sort of, mind share, I'd say.
Mhm.
And when we first met, it was around, being, I think, taken aback by the customer experience was specifically with respect to Oracle anyway, where we were used to with a Teradata line of business or an IBM line of business, if we did a really good job, especially with respect to due diligence, we were able to create a compelling business case with good value. You met the technical team, you were impressed with our capability, talked to reference customers. If we did a really good job with that, our batting, average was really high, north of 85%, I would
Mhm.
say. But then when we launched our Oracle business at the behest of our existing client base, a new prospect would call, and we would still score ourselves pretty highly on the experience, only to find the customer to come back to us and say, "Guys, you did great. We loved your references, but we're going to keep our support with Oracle for another 12 months." And we were really sort of taken aback by that. And I think that's how we first met, Craig. And
Mhm.
that's I've been parroting around, the Palisade three things you need to move to an OEM everywhere I go, and so much so that it's been baked into our sales process now around obviously step one, you need that, a technical, partner to take care of your technical assets that you can trust. But more importantly, you need a plan, to move away,
Mhm.
some strategies and tactics to move away or to achieve what it is you're looking to achieve. And then the most important bit is actually pulling off the strategies and tactics that you outlined in step two. And what we are finding a lot of now is the volume of inbound requests are quite high, but they come quite late in the session. So, with Oracle, we'll find somebody reaching out to us in April or May and realizing two things. This company CDS looks like an absolute perfect fit for us,
Mhm.
but dang, we're not ready. We really aren't. And this is typically when we introduce Palisade to a customer to say this is not particularly an easy topic. This is something you need a team of experts to help with. But that remains our largest challenge today, is helping customers with strategies there, especially at the 11th hour, Craig, where they
Right.
really want to move support away to CDS, but they have to really start to build that sort of step two, the tactics and strategies that they need.
Yeah, it's that going back to the taking control from,
Mm,
speaking of just this one vendor, Oracle. And you're right, we'll see the same thing. Customers will come to us and say, hey, we want to get out of this ULA. It expires in 3 months, and we can totally do that. And we want to move to third-party support. Fantastic.
yep.
That's going to take 15 months, right? Because I'm telling you, you are going to renew your Oracle support for another year while you live life outside of this ULA. And that's on the software side, not on the hardware side, not on the
Hmm.
Exadata side. On the Exadata side, it is easier, I think, to move off of Oracle support, contractually easier. I don't know, technically easier, but contractually easier. There's less hooks, but there are some hooks. And I think, the vendors understand and they love the cloud, right? They
Mm,
love, think about you're on-prem in your own data center. You bought licenses, you bought support, and now these vendors come and say, hey, get rid of all that stuff and now
yeah.
have a subscription.
Yeah.
Now you don't own the server anymore. You don't, and on one hand, it sounds compelling, and I think there was this rush to cloud, but the way you described it before is we're going to be in this permanent hybrid model,
Yep.
and I don't really know many customers on either end of the spectrum that are 100% in the cloud or still 100% on-prem. And
Yep.
every single customer we work with, they've got some workloads that are moving to cloud, and they've got some workloads there, this has got to come back on-prem for whatever reason. And I think we're going to see more of that, right? And even the vendors are, they're calling it cloud. They're setting up, take Oracle, cloud a customer.
Yep.
It's just an Exadata machine in your data center that Oracle manages remotely, and they call it cloud, right?
Yep.
So great marketing, and it could be a great product. But that's something, again, they're saying they've got these aging Exadata machines, the clients do, and then Oracle comes in with this other pitch, right?
Yep.
So, but I think what they don't realize is there are other options, right? There's the CDS Let's keep our Exadata machine running on-prem and not incur that, you know, additional cloud management fee from
Yep.
Oracle. And then it just really, really becomes a rental. Even the cloud of customers is just a rental. And again, as long as you do it eyes wide open, that's one thing. But I think a
Yep.
lot of companies, it's not as clear to them as for you and I who've seen this 1,000 times. They're doing it once or they're doing it twice, and it's new to them. But it comes back to that control thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It really does. And I feel that, you know, I feel for customers, especially with respect to Oracle, because Oracle's, first and foremost, the products are great. We love supporting them. They're really reliable. They perform as expected or better. But from a support renewals perspective, I think Oracle does a good job in terms of publishing a lot of their policies. They're on page 74 of a document somewhere. They're there, but a lot of customers only really find out about them at the last minute. And so what we're running into now is something as like an aged hardware surcharge as an example. So an additional 15% on top of the inflationary uplift that I'm only finding out 90 days before my renewals due, and I've got 20 appliances that that's going to apply to. What do I do? Right. And so this is a lot of the time we'll receive a call off the back of that sort of emotional response. And honestly, for a service provider like us, we can share stories, right? We can tell customers what other customers have done, but really, we like to maintain that sort of that arm's length away from licensing counsel, because it really, it's, we don't want to be the company that's selling you the a support service that you're asking for and also coaching you on what to do with respect to licensing counsel. So I guess a question for you then is, are you finding it quite similar on the Palisade side, where a customer comes to you in a panic with an emotional response saying, "What do I do?"
Oh my gosh. Yes. So much so we have, we do trade shows once in a while. And we always thought the best booth we could ever have is like a big red couch. And I put a chair next to the couch, and the CIOs and executives would come in. I'd say, lie down and tell me what Oracle did to you. And let's just have a
Mhm.
conversation. We are often the ones, walking them down from, I'm going to sue those guys. We're doing this. I'm like, no, you're not. No, we're not. Nobody's suing anybody. Yes, it's a $500,000 issue. Yes, it's a $75 million issue, but this is how it's going to work out long term. So, yes, the emotions in our space take hold, and just in looking at our business, I mean, that's our customer, right? We don't get the happy Oracle customers who
Yeah.
feel like they're getting good value and getting treated well and all of that. We get customers when they have a problem, when they want to do something different. And what you said before around there are the contracts are out there or the policies are out there, but they're on page 73 in a URL that's not in your contract,
Mm.
and that could change at any moment. And that's, when I think about support, and this is primarily on the software side, but it's also on the hardware side too. Oracle's got this amazing policy. I think they took it from, now it predates PeopleSoft. It goes back a long, long time. Um, if you're using 100 of something and you say, hey, I'm only using 50, Oracle says, "Great. You only have to pay for 50. You only have to you can cancel 50 and just pay for 50, and we're going to reprice everything, and you're
Hmm.
going to pay the exact same thing." And I think one of the things they've done with mingling contracts is muddying the waters, mingling software
Yep.
and cloud and hardware contracts and consulting and education services is muddying the waters on when certain policies take effect, right? So if I drop my exit data support, will Oracle just reprice my database licenses and all of
Yep.
those things? And a lot of it, depends on your agreement. Well, it all depends on your agreements with Oracle and the policies that you've said yes to. But what we come across is, we've got here average 15, 20 years experience per person at Palisade. They used to work at Oracle. We just got so much experience. And we have to explain to the vendor what their policies are, which is
Mm.
amazing to me. It's so complicated. They don't even know what their support policies are. Not all
Yeah.
of them, but way too many times. So if you're a customer and you go to a vendor, let's stop picking on Oracle and pick on someone else, or just say generic, you might not get the right answer. And
That's
not
right.
that anyone's trying to lie to you or cheat you or steal from you, but they are repeating what they've been told,
Hmm.
right? So it is
Yep.
really important for a consumer of these technologies to take ownership of that, right? Part of taking control is taking ownership. Like, it's
Yep.
up to me, and I'm going to get some, and this is sort of what we do. I'm going to get some independent help here, right? So, one of the things, and it's unfortunate when I look at the third-party support model on the licensing side, pretty much all those vendors are now offering licensing support,
Hmm.
right? So they throw it in for free. And I'm like, and so I've had customers sort of get screwed by that, right? They
Mm.
got some really not good advice from one of those vendors, and it caused them a problem. So, my advice when you want to do something different than Oracle wants you to do is talk to someone, who's not compensated either way, right? They don't
Right.
get paid more if you spend more or less with Oracle, right? They just get paid. And then that person, I'm, pitching my own company here. Um, yes, Natrinsic, their service, our customers love them. CDS, our customers love them. We've got a bunch that use their services. And sort of that's sort of how we help our customers along the way. And then obviously, you'll see the same thing, right? You'll see customers who have these licensing issues, and that's why I love working with you guys, because you send them our way, and we can. And sometimes we don't give them the best answer for you guys, right? Hey, your contract says this, but at least right away,
Yep.
right? Like so,
Exactly.
and I love the fact that our customers who use you guys love you guys, right? So that is sort of what pushes us when we find a solutions provider that really adds value. We want to stress it. Yeah,
Yeah.
keep going, keep going. And
There's
I think
there's
ultimately it's that control of
yes.
budgets and technology.
It really is. There, we have a mutual client, Craig, a large wireless carrier that you actually introduced us to many moons ago. They're a customer now, and so we were lucky in that Palisade had already provided some deep level of counsel around their existing position posture. In this case, with Oracle, and it was a case that. Where Oracle's restrictive policies actually ended up playing in our favor, interestingly. And the policy I'm thinking about in particular is a famous matching service levels policy. So we have a customer that has 16 appliances, and only two of those appliances the customer was hoping to leave with Oracle with respect to maintaining access to patches. And so while CDS is able to provide what we call whole system support, so we're responsible from a break fix perspective for hardware and software, which is a key differentiator for us in the market. If an Exadata node gets evicted at 2 o'clock in the morning during a maintenance routine and it has nothing to do with broken hardware, we're on the hook for that. What that means, though, is that the customer can save not only the hardware annual maintenance costs, but all of the software annual maintenance costs as well. Things famously, known as Exadata server storage software, as an example. But in this case, with our mutual client, leaving two appliances with Oracle and moving the rest to us sort of invalidates that matching service levels policy and runs the customer into a bit of a trouble. And so what we were able to do in this case was to dive a little bit deeper around the requirements around patching. And what we were able to discover is that not only had the systems that not been patched for some time, the customer was actually ineligible to receive patches on those systems because the software had aged to a state where Oracle didn't author any new patches for those versions of software. And when the customer was faced with doing sort of the upgrade of software just to continue patch compliance,
Mhm.
it was deemed that was too risky in comparison to doing the upgrade itself. So it's sort of the matching service level policy in this case sort of cleared the way for us to take over all of the appliances for support in that case. And that was, I think, a perfect example of our two companies working together. And as you know, the customer is extremely happy, and services are running great there. So, but I think that was a classic case of it's a sort of policy whack-a-mole.
Right.
Which one did we put this fire out today? Okay, well, which ones are we focused on now? And being able to work together on that sort of from like I said earlier, an arm's length away from that
Right.
policy discussion and focused on what we do best, enabled everybody to be happy in the end.
Yeah, and you mentioned before the emotion. I think the executive that we were working on over there, when we were explaining to him sort of the restrictions, his response, and I quote, was "F those guys." Little bit more than F.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, so there's an example, but again, okay, the emotions come out, but then let's look at the facts and where you can go and what your options are. And that's what it's all about, is right, giving folks options, right?
yeah,
Again,
yeah.
options control. So what is next? What are you guys going to start supporting next? What are customers asking you to do? What are we going to be talking about in a year or two?
Yeah, it's a great question. So on the IBM side, so IBM and Oracle continue to develop on-premise technology. They see the future as hybrid, Both have taken different steps to get there, but in the IBM Netezza space, there is a currently sold product in that realm with the nickname Hammerhead. So we've just launched support for Hammerhead in that realm, which is great. We are constantly asked to look into supporting SAP HANA appliances, which I think would continue to have the two of us working together in the SAP space. And then there's a massive question around open source, which is quite a shift for us. But for those customers that are looking to use, community edition of open source products, where you don't get any enterprise grade support at all, but you do get the latest and greatest patches from the community. It's a bit of a white space out there from an enterprise support perspective. That has been in R&D on our side now for quite some time with respect to open source database platforms. So it's just a watch this space at this point, Craig, on that.
That's interesting because we work with a lot of open source database vendors because they're facing very similar issues. Different
Mhm.
particulars, but the basic is they have a great technical solution, and their customers' contracts with Oracle present some roadblocks, right? So they'll come to
Yep.
us and, hey, can you help that customer? Can you help that customer? When you say open source and products, though, my mind, just because of where I live in work, is Java. Is that
hmm
something you guys are looking at?
No, we would be probably more on platforms. The requests that are coming in are primarily around PostgreSQL,
Hmm.
Couchbase, Cassandra, and Mongo. And so, still staying to our roots in the database realm, it fits really well. A lot of our team is already sort of is experienced in those platforms because a lot of the sort of premium OEM options are rooted somewhere in the open source space back in
Right.
its in its early days. But yet not so much in the Java space, I'd say. Primarily on the database engine side is where we would see a perfect fit for us.
You think about Java. It's
Yeah.
a huge space. It's a huge
It
space.
is. It is.
Uh,
Considering our niche historically has been these high-end, very expensive, very sticky, well-loved appliances that are a combination of, very specific hardware, with a tight interdependence with, OEM software. That's been our bread and butter for the last 6 or 7 years. Where do you see the opportunity potentially on the Java side for a support vendor?
so 2 years ago, Oracle changed all the rules. Excuse me. 2 years ago, Oracle changed all the rules around Java.
Mm,
Basically, I mean, many years ago, before they bought Sun, it used to be free. Everybody used Java, so it's everywhere. It's built in all the applications. 2 years ago, they said if you're using Java like this, you need a license for everyone in your company.
mm,
So if you have one person using it, so we had one South African company, and they had 50,000 employees, and maybe 1,000 of them had computers. The rest are working outside.
hmm
And Oracle wanted, $3 million a year for that. So there are firms that have come up, Azul being one of them, and Red Hat has a solution, and there's some other firms out there that are now providing support for for Java because like you can see, this is what Oracle will do to you.
hmm
And as long as you come in under that and provide something similar, there's a great space. So that's why my head when you said open source, I'm like, oh, that's the big one. But we've also seen Linux,
hmm
um, you know, Red Hat sort of pushing that. We've seen what was Anaconda pushing
hmm
Python audits. So all these and people think open source is free, and it's like, well, not really. The other requirement we're seeing is from our clients, even though it's open source, you need some enterprise level support for it. You can't
hmm
go completely unsupported
Yep.
with a product. So they're looking for folks like you guys. If you're doing it on the database side, I would imagine that you could wrap this other thing into it
Yeah.
pretty nicely. And by the way,
Absolutely.
everyone asks me to do other crazy, stupid things. So it's nice for me to be able to project that onto you
Yeah.
and put you on the spot and say, you should do this
Yeah.
other
For
crazy,
sure.
stupid thing.
There it is sometimes though things come up that are more in our wheelhouse. So one example, with the recent changes from Broadcom. Obviously, the third-party VMware support market has sort of, has come out of nowhere, which we have sort of stayed clear of, other than a niche where we combine again this sort of specialist hardware with, VMware software. And so there's an appliance made by Dell EMC called VX Rail, which is a combination of EMC storage and Dell components with VMware, vCenter, vSphere, ESXi, you name it, all in one sort of bundle. And so, depending on the client's relationship with Broadcom VMware, many customers are finding themselves with these huge platforms that are taking up half the data center, where they're only able to get support on one half of that, which is just on the hardware side, leaving all of the sort of management software from VMware exposed. And so recently, CDS launched a VX Rail support solution that is the combination of EMC VX Rail expertise as well as VMware expertise, but only as it pertains to the VMware expertise inside of VxRail solution. So it's an ultra niche product, but it's a widely successful product that Dell sold many, many thousands of units around the world in, where customers are now sort of with their hands in the air saying, what do we do? We've already terminated our relationship with Broadcom, but now we've got, production environment that's at risk. So to your point, some ideas come and you throw the spaghetti against the wall, and some are a hit, and others are not. But this VxRail solution from CDS is a perfect example of combining our strengths that we've already got in house.
Right.
So it's just about, as I get older, sort of making sure that I use my ears more than I do my mouth, and just ask customers what their pain points are and where they're headed. And when you have more than one client in the same week say this is a real problem for us, and doing a quick survey of your customer base about how many others are using this product in the same position, it's pretty beneficial.
I love that. I love going back to our clients, and asking them, "What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Are you seeing this? Are you seeing that?" They're more than willing, because ultimately we're helping them as well.
Hmm.
Getting input from people on the ground who are experiencing from the vendor is key, right? So I know for me personally, running a business, but also staying engaged in engagements here and there, right?
Hmm.
So because I want to be on the call with Oracle. I want to hear what they're saying. I want to see the customer's experience with that vendor over there, whether it's a Broadcom audit or a small Anaconda challenge or something like that, because that's really important. And you having come up sort of through the ranks, small little company where you're doing everything, now you're with this larger company. It must be a challenge sometimes to sort of stay connected to sort of what's happening on the street there.
It really is, especially if you take into consideration the much larger customer base that the CDS business represents with their OEM partners, and you take the customer base times 30 years, it's a lot more difficult to do that. So being able to stay engaged on a repetitive basis is definitely a challenge. Um, One question, and I don't mean to, get any of your secret sauce sort of out there and in the market, but one thing I know our customers are asking for a lot, especially it come April, May timeframe, is okay. I now realize you were right. There are third-party options that are perfect fit for us. We aren't ready. Do I have any other choice here other than to just get 12 months of support again from Oracle and take the next 12 months to figure out my play? Is that my only option here? And that's when we have difficulty answering sometimes. I'm curious about your thoughts, and if there's any general comments about sort of Oracle's overall arching sort of position on what customers can do in that perspective.
Yeah, and listen, my opinion is there's always options. Like
Mm,
we will find a way. It could be a short-term extension that's not 12 months. It could be, just not renewing at the time, right? They'll take your money in a month or two if you really need a
mm,
patch or something later. So there's always options. The key and the secret sauce, and the secret sauce, unfortunately, depends on the situation with the client. Is how do you get
mm.
the leverage to do that?
Yeah,
How do you get the internal gumption to sort of make that move.
yeah.
And sort of that's where we bring our clients along. One of the reasons I started doing this podcast is I was listening to a podcast, and probably there's 4 people that listen to it. It was about Oracle licensing. So, oh, I have to listen to this podcast. And so it was some of our competitors. And they're like, well, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I'm like, well, that's not right. I've done all of those things for our clients. Like, absolutely. So
Mm,
if you feel trapped, yes, you're still the customer, you're still the
yeah,
client. You still have to write the check, right? Oracle they don't, withdraw the money automatically from your account. You have
yeah,
to sign the renewal, you have to send them a purchase order, they send you a bill, you got to
yeah,
send them the money. So you still have some level of control there. So absolutely. There's always easy advice is you ask for a 6-month extension.
yeah. We'll
That like
start there.
you might not get it, you might get it, you might not get it. Now, it is more likely to get it if you couch that into terms that Oracle understands and believes and will agree to versus just saying, hey, be a great business partner and give me a 6-month extension so I can go off of your product, later, right? That's
Right.
probably not going to work. Uh, so if we can figure out a strategy and a communication strategy to Oracle, and that's where, we come in is like we all were at Oracle. Like I put
Yeah.
my Oracle hat on, I literally have an Oracle hat over there. Sometimes I use it I put it on with my client and say, I'm going to put my Oracle hat on. And I do it physically,
Yeah.
but also I want them to see I'm talking to you as an Oracle support salesperson, for example,
Yeah.
because we know what they're going to say. We absolutely know what they're going to say. We know how they get compensated. We know what they're thinking, and we know what their managers will approve and not approve.
Right.
So there's always options, right? You are never really trapped until you give the money to the vendor. Then you're trapped. You already gave the money to the vendor. Then they're never going to give it back to you.
You mentioned the word leverage, um, which I find you just sort of prodded something loose there when you said that. Prior to when we had first met, I'd go into an Oracle opportunity with some preconceived notions around what is a qualified opportunity or not a qualified opportunity. And as I'm getting older, I'm trying my best to walk into every room with no preconceived notions and just listen. And so, as an example, in our earlier days, if I had a customer come to us and said, "Now, listen, we've got X6s and X7s and an old supercluster, and where we need to sweat those assets. We're going to use them in production. We need 3 or 4 more years of support, but we're moving to GCP, BigQuery, and with the writings on the wall. That would be a perfect opportunity that we would spend a lot of time on." To contrast that, if a customer came to us and said, "Oh, I've got X6s and X7s, and actually we're going to be buying X10s and X11s next year," years ago, I would look at that and go, "Well, it's probably not a great opportunity." Well, obviously, I was wrong. Customers who are who love their Oracle product and intend to continue to buy more, we're seeing, especially larger customers, be able to sort of walk into negotiations with some moxie now and say, "Hey, listen, I'm working with so and so in this Oracle sales organization around a significant investment into new Oracle engineered systems. But I'm running into this challenge from an Oracle renewal sales rep who's really given me the runaround on some policies I've never heard of. And ultimately, I want to have my cake and eat it too, and I'm the customer."
Right.
And so by just listening to customers talk about what their plans are out loud, sometimes we're privy to sort of that confidence of, yeah, to your point earlier, they have a plan. They know how they're pulling this
Mhm.
off, and they know how to leverage future investments to get what they want from their existing environment, which has been quite refreshing, to hear that. So, yeah, but that comes all the way back to our initial discussions many moons ago, Craig, around, it's understanding the chess pieces that you want to move into certain positions at what
Mhm.
time. Some things can't happen overnight, but you can work backwards from that end goal.
Yep.
And as long as you've got a strong support partner you trust to take care of your assets when you move them away from the OEM, well, great. Now you've got that control back, right? The pressure
Yep.
has been released. Now let's start putting a plan together and pull this off.
You could become a sales rep at Palisadely. I love it. Might have you do a public service announcement.
Well, let me know the next time you've got the red couch at a trade show. I'll definitely come around.
Send some people over. Send some
Oh,
people
for
over.
sure. Absolutely.
No, listen, we want to thank you for your time that you spent with us and for your support and helping our clients out. Like I said, we really love sending folks your way. If someone wants to know more about CDS or talk to you, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you?
just head to our website. So cds.net or natrinsic.com if you're looking just at the engineered systems, Teradata, and IBM Natisa space. Natrinsic is Natrinsic.com.
Awesome. And I have to say that, at least for today, you were the world's greatest podcast guest. So thank you.
I'm honored.
And
Great
thank you,
fun, Craig.
everybody. And we'll see you next time.